Will Josh Allen be able to repeat his historic 2020 fantasy football season? That and much, much more coming up on today's episode of 2 Point Stance. Lauren, what do you think? Is Josh Allen going to be able to repeat this year?
I think he's going to come really, really close. But I don't know if I really buy that he's going to get better than what he was last year, simply because I think that defenses have caught on with this new Josh Allen that emerged from last year. So I don't know if he's going to be able to exactly repeat those numbers or, like blow them out of the water, but I think he's going to get close. The thing that really stands out for me here, too, is that we don't have, again, any kind of running game besides Josh Allen. So yeah. And you're adding Emmanuel Sanders. You've got Stephon Diggs, who's a stud. So yeah, I think that he's going to come pretty darn close. And I think he's going to make fantasy managers very happy.
Yeah, and I think that he can put up numbers similar to what he did last year. I mean, he's a great quarterback. We've seen him step forward as a passer. Like we knew he was a runner when he got drafted, and that's always what gave him that really safe floor. But then last year he hit his ceiling as a passer, which was great to see. But I think that the difference is he's going to have a little bit more competition in fantasy next year. Kyler Murray got hurt midseason, and his production fell off a cliff. Lamar Jackson, he got off to a slow start when they were trying to turn him into a pocket passer. Now he's got more weapons. I expect to see him step forward a little bit. Even Patrick Mahomes, by his standards, didn't have a great fantasy football season. Russell Wilson fell off a cliff. Now you've got Ryan Tannehill, who's got Julio Jones to throw the ball to. So I think that, Josh Allen might be able to get close to the 400 points that he scored last year in fantasy football. I think that there's more of a level playing field now in that top tier, and there's going to be other guys that are going to be able to put up similar production. So sure, yeah, I think that he can repeat his performance, but I don't think that means that you need to go out and spend a first-round pick to pick him, because there's going to be a lot of other really good quarterbacks this year as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. I feel like the top 6 quarterbacks you can shuffle any which way, and if you want to put Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, any of those guys, if you want to put them as your number one quarterback, I'm not going to fault you for it, because I think that they are all equally as good with high ceilings and high floors, and it's a fun spot to be if you're playing fantasy football this year. But sure. Anyway, I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of 2 Point Stance. I am Dave Kluge, and I am here with Lauren Carpenter as usual. Today's episode is episode 2 of our division breakdown. We did the NFC and AFC North last week, and today we are headed to the East Coast. We're going to talk about the AFC East and the NFC East. Obviously, since we're already talking about the Bills, we will keep rolling with that. Want to remind you as well to subscribe to the Footballguys YouTube page at youtube.com/FootballGuysTV. We are no longer streaming to Twitter, so you can find us exclusively on the YouTube page.
Yeah, and we have a ton of stuff on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure that you are subscribed to that channel, Footballguys TV. And if you're into shows like this, and if you're into early rankings, you're serious about playing fantasy football, but winning consistently at fantasy football is challenging and it takes time. So you need a Footballguys premium subscription, and that gives you the edge and helps you make winning decisions in less time, which is very important. Winning decisions in less time, because a lot of research goes into fantasy football, in case anybody didn't know. But head over to footballguys.com, click on the orange button in the upper right hand that says join now, and then we do all that work, and you guys do all the winning.
Of course. Now, you already mentioned it, that they don't have a running game. Josh Allen is the RB1 over there, but they have Zack Moss, they have Devin Singletary. And I want to ask you, are either of these guys worth, where are you looking to draft these guys, if you're looking to draft them at all in redraft leagues this year?
I'm looking to hope that my league mates draft them so that I can point and laugh. No, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, I might take a shot on it, maybe like a just in case, but not really. There are other options, actually. I say that and I lie. I'm a fraud. I didn't even mean what I just spoke right there. I'm staying away. I'm staying completely away from the run game in Buffalo, except for Josh Allen.
At first, a couple of weeks ago, I think we talked about this, and I said that Zack Moss was somebody that I was kind of intrigued by. He's got some decent draft capital, and he was hurt last year, got off to a slow start, but he did see some red zone touches down the stretch. And then I did a deeper dive into this a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't want either of these guys, because Zack Moss, he might get some of the goal line work, but he's not going to see any of the passing down work. And then Devin Singletary, he's going to see some of that work between the 20s, and he'll get involved in the passing game here and there, but he's not going to see the goal line work. So it's the premium touches are kind of split. So these guys are going to be so volatile this year. And you know my stance when it comes to playing fantasy football. I want to draft those running backs early that I know are going to lock in and week out production. I don't want to play that game of, hoping that Devin Singletary is going to score a touchdown, because if not, he's going to have, a 2 or 3 point performance. So I'm kind of with you in there. Like, I don't really want to draft these guys. I feel like, gun to my head, I have to choose one of them. I'd go with Devin Singletary just because he's going 5 rounds later than Zack Moss. But yeah, right now, Josh Allen is the guy to have in that rushing game. I think he's probably going to lead the team in rushing touchdowns. And yeah, Devin Singletary and Zack Moss are kind of kryptonite for me right now.
Yeah. And I mean, gun to my head, and someone made me make a choice with that like horrible decision, I'd be like, here's my will, tell my children I love them, and feed my dogs.
Yeah, got to take care of the dogs, So let's talk about the passing game a little bit, though, because the passing game is much more exciting. So we saw Stephon Diggs just absolutely blow up last year. Like, we knew this guy could play. He had some great seasons in Minnesota, but what he did last year in Buffalo was just unbelievable. A wide receiver 3 finish overall behind just Devonte Adams and Tyreek Hill, who just set the bar for fantasy excellence. So I'm wondering, did we see Stephon Diggs' ceiling last year, or do you think that there's room for him to also improve heading into 2021?
I definitely think there's room for Stephon Diggs to improve. But again, I don't know if it's going to be blowing the numbers out of the water last year like it was. But can he repeat what he did last year? Absolutely. Can he do a little bit better? Absolutely. I definitely think he can. So it feels like Stephon Diggs was like always on the Bills, doesn't it? Like the fit is so
such
perfect.
A good fit. Yeah.
That, like, wasn't it last year his first year on the Bills? And it feels like he'd been there forever. It's like, it's so perfect. So taking that next step forward in an offense that's not in a weird COVID year of disgustingness, I honestly think that he can repeat his performance, and he's a stud. There's no other way around it. He's just a stud. And he has a lovely smile.
I'll agree with you on that. Now, what kind of blows my mind is that, we know that he's in this, like, in the top tier, but I just want to point out that, first of all, he played 16 games. Tyreek Hill and Devonte Adams outscored him in fewer games. Tyreek Hill missed a game. Devonte Adams missed 2 games. So even though he's, everyone considers him to be in that top tier, I still think that Adams and Tyreek Hill, Adams with Aaron Rodgers, is in a tier of his own. So I'd be shocked to see Stephon Diggs really.
I can hear the Bills fans already. I can hear them already. Like, what do you mean he's not elite? Go ahead, continue. I just wanted to let you know I heard them. I heard them out in the world yelling at you.
But in PPR games, listen to this. Devonte Adams outscored Stephon Diggs by 5.1 points per game. That's almost an entire touchdown. Like, that's unbelievable. So, like, I get it. Stephon Diggs is really, really good, but people that are putting him in the wide receiver 1 discussion, talking about taking him in the end of the first round, I think that you might be over analyzing just a little bit there, because I think that the only guys that really deserve to go in that spot are Devonte Adams, Tyreek Hill. Maybe you could make the argument that AJ Brown is going to step up, but another thing is they brought in Emmanuel Sanders this year, who I think is a pretty significant upgrade from John Brown, who they had last year. And a lot of people are talking about Gabe Davis having this breakout sophomore year. And when John Brown left the team, that's what everybody was hoping for. But now we've got Gabe Davis and Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is the team's number 1 wide receiver, but who do you think is going to end up being the number 2 guy on this team?
That is, oh gosh, I don't know. Like, Cole Beasley? I don't know who's the number 2 is going to be. I love Emmanuel Sanders, like something fierce. I could see him doing it. I could also see this being a split between, several different receivers vying for that wide receiver 2 title, if you will. I love Gabriel Davis as an awesome flyer late in drafts. I want pieces of him. I did that last year too, and he just showed that he can get it done. He was my DFS darling. I loved playing him in DFS when the matchups were right. So that question's a little bit more nebulous to me, but I wouldn't mind a piece other than, of course, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, like we're saying. I wouldn't mind a piece of that wide receiving core. It's just going to depend on where they fall in the draft, what my team is already looking like. But yeah, having a piece of that would be great. Do I know which one it's going to be at this point? I think it's too early to tell. And I think that role will flip and that will change week to week. So I'm not sure if there will be a wide receiver 2 per se that is the go-to number 2 guy, like we saw in, let's say, Atlanta when it was Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley kind of a thing. I don't see that coming out of Buffalo.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you threw in Cole Beasley's name as well, so I'll mention him. It's like they have 3 wide receiver twos. It's not like
Exactly.
any of these guys are bad. It's just it's really tough to decide who's going to be the guy to go after. So really, what it comes down to for me probably is going to be who's going to have the best value. Whoever's falling latest in the draft. So right now, it looks like it's going to be Gabriel Davis. But
Hmm.
there was it just came out. It was John Buscaglia from I forget who he's with. Uh, the Athletic. He just came out and said that it looks like the Bills want Emmanuel Sanders to be the number 2 guy, and that they don't
Lots
have
of
a lot of
stories out of
confidence.
camp. Yep.
Yeah, and that they don't have a lot of faith in Gabriel Davis. So that's definitely something worth monitoring. But as it stands right now, I'm probably just going to take whichever guy drafts or falls first. I don't want to be the first guy to draft one of those, secondary pass catching options in Buffalo.
Right. Another thing to remember with Buffalo too is I think that they run the most wide receiver sets like that. I think they have 4 wide receivers on the field more than any other team in the NFL. Don't quote me on that because I don't know those numbers, but I know they do it
I'd
a
say
lot.
it would have to be either them or Arizona.
Yeah,
It's
got
got
to
to be
be.
one of those two. But let's obviously sticking with the AFC East. Let's move up north a little bit. Or no, I guess this would actually be south, going to the Patriots. And what I want to talk about right now is Mac Jones. When you expect to see him start, if at all, this year? Is it going to be week 1? Is it going to be 2022? Are we going to see a midseason switch? When do you expect to see Mac Jones take his first snap for the Patriots?
I so want to say week 1 right now, just to break your heart. That's what I want to. I would be like week 1, Avi. Now, if you did start week 1, that would be awesome because I really want to see Mac Jones start. That'd be awesome. Realistically, I think this is going to come several weeks into this season. And I believe that there's going to be ups and downs with Cam Newton, and they're going to want to see what they have in their rookie quarterback. And I think that they're going to put him out. Do I think that maybe it'll be a few games here and there? I don't know, but I know we're going to see him on the field this year. Now, will he be the week 1 starter? Probably not. It's probably going to be Cam Newton, barring injury, of course. So I don't know. I have a feeling we will see him out on the field this year as a starter, maybe the last couple games, maybe the last half of the season, but 2022 for sure is when he's going to be the guy, but he might be the guy even earlier.
Well, last night this morning, actually, I was listening to the Dynasty newsletter show, and Chris Allen was out this week, so Chad Parsons stepped in. But Adam Wilde and Chad Parsons had a great conversation about this, and Adam made a lot of sense. He said, I'm treating Mac Jones like he is the week 1 starter when I'm drafting. He goes, even if, he's not going to, he goes, that's what I want to chase. I'm not going to discount him because he might miss the first couple of weeks of the season. He expects him to take over at some point this year, which I kind of do as well, as much as I love Cam Newton. I'm a big Cam Newton truther out there, but everything that we're seeing from camp makes it seem like Mac Jones is going to take over at some point this year. So I feel like that's the mindset you have to have. And the same thing, like right now, people are discounting Justin Fields, and he's dropping into the 7th, 8th round of redraft leagues. And why? We know that this guy has QB1 potential. So if he's going to miss 1 or 2 games, most guys are going to miss 1 or 2 games to injuries anyway. So why are we discounting somebody like that in the draft? I think that you just kind of have to treat him as the week 1 starter, and they put some good weapons around him. So, Mac Jones could end up having a decent season as a rookie this year. I don't know exactly when we're going to see him take over, but I think it'll be sometime in the front half of the season. And he's got Bill Belichick, and he's got a good supporting cast there to help him elevate his game. Now, somebody we talked to a lot. I mean, I feel like Damian Harris's agent should be sponsoring us at this point.
I agree. Why hasn't this happened yet?
I will reach out to him after the show and let him know that he is the darling of this show. But
I
want to talk about him, and what do you think Damian Harris's ceiling is this year?
Oh, I don't know. How high can you reach and then look even further on up? I love Damian Harris. There's also some really good reports coming out of camp that they are fully expecting him to be the RB1, which is very exciting because he's going pretty late in drafts. So I don't want to say pretty late because it changes every day, and I haven't looked at it today. But he's a value, and he's a steal right now for a potential workhorse back that they can have. And he showed that he can do it last year. So I'm very excited. I think his ceiling is very, very high. But the most important part, what I think that Damian Harris brings, is a very safe floor. If he does indeed have that volume like they're predicting and like they're saying that he is going to have, that is what I'm the most concerned about in fantasy when it comes to a running back that I can depend on. I need at least something that I know that I can count on week in and week out. And that's why he is so special, I think, for me. I can't speak for you, but that's why he's very special for me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. And like you said, the reports came out of camp. It was Mike Reese who, I was just talking to Sigmund about this the other day because there's so many beat reporters out there and you don't know who you can trust and who you can't trust. And he said Mike Reese is one of the guys that just, comes out with really strong, solid information that you want to listen to. And he said that They are viewing him as the decisive RB1 heading into the 2021 season, which I just love to see. 24 years old, 5 yards per carry last year. This is a team that wants to commit to running the ball. So right now, it blows my mind when you look at where he's getting drafted. He's typically falling into the late 20s, early 30s as a running back off the board. And I get it because there's that emotional aspect of like everybody that's played fantasy football has been burned by Patriots running backs, whether it's Sony Michel or LeGarrette Blount or James White or Rex Burkhead, whoever it is, like we've all been burned by Patriots running backs. But I think that Damian Harris is in a position where he has already separated himself from the pack and should be drafted as a, middling RB2. I'd be more than happy to take him ahead of guys like Mike Davis, who, I think that his job could still end up being replaced as the offseason goes on. Myles Gaskin, who might be in more of a timeshare than people want to believe. Travis Etienne and James Robinson, who are going to be splitting carries. Those guys are all getting drafted ahead of Damian Harris right now. And I think that you should slide Damian Harris ahead of them because he's going to be in a good position and injuries have held him back. But, his ceiling, if that's what the question that I originally poses, his ceiling could be in RB1. And a lot of things would have to fall in place for that to happen. But he's got the talent and he's on a team that wants him to do that. So let's ask one more question about the Patriots. They splashed this offseason by signing Jonnu Smith, which got everybody excited of, thinking about Rob Gronkowski. And then the very next day they went out and signed Hunter Henry. So I'm asking, between those two guys, who are you most excited about heading into 2021? Because right now they are neck and neck in everybody's rankings. So who are you looking to draft?
Neither. I am not excited about either one of them. I am staying as far away as I possibly can, which breaks my heart because I love Jonnu Smith when he was on the Titans, and I love Hunter Henry when he was on the Chargers. So it does upset me that I'm verklempt. I can't even speak. It upsets me so much. But not only do they have one of them, they have both of them. And that's a struggle for me because I don't know which one it's going to be. One could be very productive, but good luck trying to figure out which one that is going to be. And that could change every single week, which devalues them for me because I'm going to talk about what I had just mentioned with Damian Harris, and we're talking about safety and a nice floor. I don't see that with either of these two guys. I don't see the consistency. I don't have any clear picture of what their roles are going to look like. And I don't know if I want to have anything to do with it, and I'll stay away. I don't like it.
No, and that's fair enough. And, I that was my immediate gut reaction to this was, they're both going to be splitting everything, and I don't want that. But then I looked at it, and Jonnu Smith, he was never the preferred pass catching tight end in Tennessee. It was always Anthony Firkser. Anthony Firkser was the one running more routes, getting more snaps, and Jonnu Smith was held in line and kept to block a little bit more. And that didn't stop him from being productive. Last year, he had 8 touchdowns on just 65 targets. So we know that this guy can produce even without, that 80, 100 targets, like that bar that you want to see for a tight end. He might not even hit that, and he can still be productive. So if I have to choose between the two, I think I'm starting to lean towards Jonnu. He's got the ability to pick up yards after the catch, which you're not going to see from Hunter Henry quite as much. And then, I can even see, which would hurt Damian Harris's upside a little bit, but we've seen Jonnu Smith run the ball at the goal line as a goal line back. And when you look at his frame, I mean, the dude is just an absolute monster, 6'3", 250 pounds. He might even get some of those carries. We know that Bill Belichick isn't afraid to pull people out of their position and put them into something new. So I think that Jonnu Smith is a guy that I'd be looking to target between these two. And with where he's getting drafted right now in the 10th, 11th, 12th round, I'm more than happy to draft him. And I've been drafting him in a lot of redraft leagues and best ball leagues because I think that, the opportunity cost, what it costs to get him is so low that he can end up paying off at that ADP.
See, I don't know. I see it the way of, we need like a graphic that's like 2-point stance because I can see the argument going for Hunter Henry being the red zone target and being that red zone target monster. Who else do they really have out there that's going to do it besides Damian Harris running in and maybe Cam Newton if he's playing running it in? But who is either Cam Newton or Mac Jones going to have to throw to, besides Jacoby Myers, who I really like too. So I don't know. I could see a case for both. So in that instance, I want nothing to do with either of them because I'm like, nope. I don't know who it's going to be, so ergo, moving on. I cannot make a choice here.
Kendrick Bourne is kind of like a sneaky red zone target too, and that's what's weird with this team is I feel like they have so many guys that can be utilized heavily in the red zone, but are they going to be able to get to the red zone? That's what I worry about because they've got all these
very true,
huge,
very true.
efficient guys, and once they get there, it's going to be kind of weird. And like, what did Cam Newton have last year? Was it 8 passing touchdowns? I mean, there was something crazy. Like he was not throwing touchdowns last year, and I don't know if he's going to be able to this year, but they certainly surround him with the pass catchers. So we'll see if they can change it. Now let's move down south, which is what I meant to say earlier, because now we're going all the way down to Miami. And this year, heading into 2021, they have a much clearer situation at quarterback than they did last year. We know that it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the week 1 starter. Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't going to be there to come in the middle of games and pull the rug out from under him. We should see a full season of Tua. So I'm wondering, where are you ranking Tua, knowing that he's going to be the starter this year?
I'm not putting him extremely high. I think he's going to be, if I really want to put the specific numbers on him, he has QB1 potential, but I don't think that's sustainable. So I do think that there are some matchups that he can pull out pretty well. So I'm going to put him in the QB2 conversation, possibly a high-end QB2. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but I don't have that faith yet. I'm very cynical, I suppose, because we really haven't seen him do that. It's been like, oh, here comes Ryan Fitzpatrick again. I don't know. He was hurt, and now he's not. I think he has the talent and to get it done. And he is one of those guys that if I have a deeper roster, I wouldn't mind, snagging him if he's available late and I already have my stellar squad already put together, or maybe taking a shot at him from the waiver wire. But for me, I'm not seeing it yet. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen enough of it. And until then, I'm going to have reservations, and I'm going to be very cautious when it comes to it, unless I'm in a super deep league where the quarterback position is incredibly thin. I know that he's at least the starter. I know that he's going to be in. So that's kind of how I'm seeing Tua. But I need to see a little bit more consistency from him from a full season, which isn't his fault. But, here we are.
Yeah, and I'm with you, and I don't even really have him as a high-end QB2. I've got him as a low-end QB2. And we've talked about this before, but I'm not a huge college fan, and I watched Tua a little bit in Alabama, and what he did there was incredible. Like, he was such a good player, but then I haven't seen it translate to the NFL, and it could have been the injury that set him back. It could have been a confidence thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick there, breathing on the back of his neck every single time he took a snap. But there was nothing that really wowed me about Tua. And they went out and they brought in a bunch of pass catchers, which don't really make that much sense to me. Like, they brought in Will Fuller, who's a deep threat, and Tua had one of the lowest ADOTs in the league last year, average depth target. They're not pushing the ball downfield. So for me, I know I'm a little bit lower than him on the consensus, but I like Sam Darnold's ceiling with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and I like Derek Carr, with his, with Darren Waller racking up yards after the catch. Even Daniel Jones with the pass catchers they have, Ryan Fitzpatrick in Washington. I have all of those guys ranked ahead of Tua, and I know that that's a little bit against the grain, but I feel like
it's a little spicy.
It is.
But I agree.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't think that Tua, I think that he's going to have a relatively safe floor, but I don't think that he's going to have the ceiling that some of these other guys have. So I'm just kind of off it. If it's a 2-quarterback or a super flex league or something like that, maybe I'm looking at him in the later rounds, but he's not somebody that I'm even thinking about in like a 12-man redraft roster.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's stick with this for just a little bit, because we saw Myles Gaskin, who I mentioned just a little bit earlier. We saw Myles Gaskin put together a heck of a year last year in Miami. And I'm wondering, do you think that he's somebody that you should be targeting? Because as far as, I don't want to say bell cow back, because I think that there is going to be a mix of Malcolm Brown and maybe Salvin Ahmed. Some other people are going to see touches. But as far as RB1s go, he's one of the guys that you can get later than anybody else on any team. He's dropping it into the 6th round. So is he somebody that you're targeting this year in 2021?
Because he is going so late, as you just said, I don't mind having that piece. Because like you said, this is probably going to be a running back by committee, or as we, lovingly refer to it as an RBBC. So that would not surprise me if that comes out, because Salvon Ahmed also did a great job, and he had great games, and you can't just ignore that. So, but because he is going so late, I don't mind that. It's when those draft picks are like anywhere between the 1st and like the 3rd or 4th round that it's going to be a committee, or you're not sure who the RB1 really is, then I want nothing to do with it. But because this is so late, I'm not losing my perceived idea of the value of him, because then I can use him as a flex spot. I can maybe rotate him out for somebody else. So I actually don't mind taking a shot on Myles Gaskin. And if I do happen to miss him, taking a shot on Salvin Ahmed is something that I can do too, because there is going to be that, volume is what I'm trying to look for among all of them, even with Malcolm Brown on there. But let's say one of them gets hurt. That means just a few more carries and a few more touches for them in that direction. So I don't mind. This is one of those running backs by committee that I'm actually okay with, because the value is so good that I don't feel like I'm wasting an early draft spot to not have enough confidence and clarity and productivity and consistency.
Yeah, and I get that. And, Myles Gaskin, he looked great in some games last year. He had that huge, game-winning touchdown run that was just, unbelievable. I think it was against the Raiders last year. Or I'm sorry, not game-winning, but when he tied it up, and then, he set the stage for Fitzpatrick to get his face mask pulled. And yeah, like that whole game was incredible. And I think Myles Gaskin, because he made so many flashy plays, he's getting pushed up a little bit. But really, I mean, what we saw last year was he scored 3 touchdowns on the entire year, 3 rushing touchdowns. This isn't a team that's going to be a high-powered offense. And with the amount of pass catchers that they have, it being a little bit of a committee, I'm not really completely sold on Myles Gaskin like a lot of other people are. And also for me, just the way that I'm drafting, like I mentioned earlier, I like to get my running backs early so I could lock in some solid guys. And then usually in these rounds, 5, 6, 7, that's when I'm looking at quarterbacks. I'm looking at wide receivers. I'm usually not even in the market for a running back that late in the draft. So he's not somebody that I'm really going out and getting. But like you said, being had in the 6th round, I think that he could very well outperform his ADP. So I think that he's a solid target if that's the route that you want to take. Just me personally, I'm not usually looking at running backs there because it's usually pretty high risk, high reward, and I don't like risk with my running backs. I want those running backs that are going to be rock solid for me year long. When they're healthy, that they're getting you 15, 20 points a week.
It also depends on how your draft is going too, because if you have a ton of options still left on the board at wide receiver, but you still do have some running backs already, snag him because somebody's going to need a running back. I like doing that too, where I have almost too many good pieces on my team. So I need to set up that kind of a trade, especially if, God heaven forbid, there's an injury that occurs early. So it's kind of one of those things, but I do agree with you too, but he's that one I would make an exception for, unlike other teams.
Right. Now, let's switch to the wide receivers a little bit because, Devonte Parker has been the wide receiver 1 there for the last few years, and he's shown some stretches where he's looked really good, and he's lived up to his first-round draft capital. But this year they went out and they added Jalen Waddle in the draft, and they also signed Will Fuller in free agency. So now all of a sudden we've got this just mess of wide receivers over there. Who do you think is going to come out as the wide receiver 1? Who's going to see the majority of the targets on this Miami Dolphins squad? Devonte Parker, Will Fuller, or Jalen Waddle?
I think it's going to be Devonte Parker. And I think that the wide receiver 2 is going to probably try to be Jalen Waddle, as much as I do not like rookie wide receivers. I just think that by default, this is kind of a young team. Well, not young team. Tua is young. So that may be some kind of a connection that they can form. I'm not sure. But Will Fuller, for me, is not a sustainable wide receiver 1 option. I think he's going to be the deep threat. He's going to be the one where it's like, oh my gosh, who just scored that touchdown? Will Fuller. Oh my God, he hasn't scored anything in 3 weeks. Oh, here he is. He's on my bench. He's going to be that guy that, which he normally is, which is so frustrating. But yeah, I can see Devonte Parker here being the wide receiver who will be the most productive. Am I excited about him? No. I'm not excited about the wide receivers in Miami. And that stems because of Tua.
Yeah. And like you said, I completely agree with you. I think Devonte Parker will be the wide receiver 1 on this team. And it's just because he's such a big body target. He likes to run those shorter. He kind of reminds me of Allen Robinson a little bit, where he runs those shorter routes and the slants across the middle of the field, kind of a Mike Thomas role. And I think that's where Tua is really going to shine, is seeing that big target close to him that he's going to be able to just hit consistently in stride. So I'm with you. I think that is going to be Devonte Parker as well. Now, we do have to talk about the Jets, and we've kind of cracked some jokes about the Jets on this team in the past. And, I don't want to say it's lazy analysis, but, a new coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. I mean, new everything. There's just, it's tough to get excited from a fantasy aspect for a team that has all of these changes. So I just want to ask, in a 12-man redraft league, is Zach Wilson somebody that you're targeting at all, or do you think that you'll be able to pick him up on waivers midseason?
I am not targeting Zach Wilson. I think that he is going to be available after the draft, unless there's like some BYU alum that's in your league that's like, I must have Zach Wilson. I think he'll be available. Other than that, first of all, congratulations to the Jets. They've needed this for a long time. So other than that, I really don't want any pieces at all. I mean, Jamison Crowder is one that I'm okay with simply because he has proven that he can be productive with whoever is throwing the football. So I'm okay with Jamison Crowder, but we're looking at a very crowded running back by committee situation all over again with the head coach, new head coach, Robert Saleh, who just came from San Francisco, which is almost synonymous with running back by committee and synonymous with who is it going to be this week. So I don't think that that's necessarily going to change just because he's in a new city. And he's head coach instead of defensive coordinator. I'm not sure. I think maybe that's the scheme that he understands and knows how to run. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. And I don't like that. I want to know how things are going to go, at least have a better idea of how things are going to go. I will watch the Jets because it is my job. Also because I am very excited about their future. And I want to see that city have some love and get that love back from their team. I think I'm just excited for what's going to happen. I don't think anything is really going to be too insanely explosive in 2021, but I think it's sure going to head that way. And that's what I'm really excited to see for redraft and fantasy. Unless something really comes to my attention that I can snag off of the waiver wire, I'm staying away.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you on this one. I'm excited for the Jets long term. I think that this culture change and just, completely gutting everything is what they needed to do. So I think that they're making the right long-term move. But yeah, it's very hard to get excited about them in the first year of this rebuild from a fantasy football thing,
right?
From a fantasy football perspective. So it's kind of crazy that Zach Wilson was the second quarterback drafted, and people just don't really want anything to do with him in fantasy football. You don't see quarterbacks go that high. And
he's a starter. It's a competition at quarterback, whatever. He will be the starter unless he gets hurt, God forbid. So again, it's like, ugh. Yeah. And they have Elijah Moore too, who's, nothing to sneeze at, but for some reason maybe it's just that the Jets bias where it's kind of like, I'm not so sure about this.
I think that's what it is. So, I mean, if you want to spend like your last round pick on Zach Wilson and hope that he can pan out as a rookie,
why not?
Go for it. But yeah, I don't think that he's somebody that you need to aggressively target because more likely than not, you'll be able to pick him up off of waivers midseason in most leagues. Now, before we switch to the NFC East, I just want to remind you that you can head to the App Store and download the Footballguys mobile app today if you haven't already. It can be used on all smartphones and gives you all of the same tools that you will find on our website. Our Draft Dominator app will make sure that you have an edge above your teammates by customizing the advice specifically to your teams. Download today so Footballguys can help you win. Now, the NFC East, Lauren, is a division that is kind of a punching bag and people make a lot of jokes about it. But from a fantasy perspective, there's a lot to get excited about here. And I want to start with the Cowboys because they've got a ton of great storylines this year. Let's start with Ezekiel Elliott. Are you expecting him to bounce back to an elite form this year?
For everyone in any of my leagues, no. I am not expecting him to bounce back. For anyone not in my leagues looking for actual fantasy advice, yes, I am expecting him to bounce back. Sorry, that was so ambiguous, but yes, I think he will have a bounce back year. I think a lot of this is the resurgence of his, I want to say like chi or something, like his energy with Dak Prescott back. So yeah, I think he's going to be just fine. If he falls in drafts because of what everyone expected from last year, that's great. Let people think it, but I have faith that Ezekiel Elliott will be just fine and have a great bounce back year.
Yeah, and I feel like right after the season ended, that's when there was like this huge, Zeke is washed, Zeke is trash, and that's what everybody was saying. And, I was doing some dynasty startups where it was crazy. He was falling into like the 6th round. Like nobody wanted anything to do with Ezekiel Elliott. And now as we get closer to the season, people are like, oh yeah, that Ezekiel Elliott guy, he's pretty darn good. And they give him the ball a lot, and they're paying him a lot of money. And Dak Prescott is coming back. And now they have better pass catchers that are going to open things up for him. And people are starting to realize that Zeke Elliott is still the same Zeke Elliott. So on Footballguys right now, he is sitting at RB6, which had you said that he was going to be the RB6 heading into the season a couple months ago, people would have laughed at you. But now he has passed up Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon. People are realizing that Ezekiel Elliott is going to bounce back this year. He's got a lot of wear and tear on his legs, and his shelf life might be coming to an end within the next few years. But I think that you can confidently draft him as an elite RB1 again in 2021. Now, let's talk about somebody else who's coming back this year. Zeke dealt with a few nagging injuries last year, but Dak Prescott had that season-ending brutal ankle injury.
Gruesome.
Terrible to watch. just seeing him cry and getting carted off on the
Oh,
field was just heartbreaking.
heartbreaking.
Especially seeing that like this team got off to a hot start. Like the Cowboys looked good
Yeah.
last year. Dak was tearing it up. He was the number one quarterback in fantasy. So what are you expecting from Dak this year? I mean, are you expecting him to fully come back to his elite form, or are you kind of a bit trepidatious because of that injury?
I am not trepidatious at all. I think that he has something to prove. I think that he's going to come back and crush it. And I think that what we've seen from Dak Prescott in the past, we're going to see from Dak Prescott again. Now, will there be maybe more bumps in the road than there may have been prior to his injury? I think that's to be expected, but I don't see those bumps as being huge. I don't see them lasting very long. And I like Dak Prescott. It's the same kind of explanation I want to give for Ezekiel Elliott. This is renewed. This is new. There were so many bad things going on with the Dallas Cowboys last year besides just injuries. It was just numerous. It was just perpetuating throughout that entire organization. And I think they want to prove a point this year, and that starts with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, and they got to get it done, and I think they will.
Yeah, I mean, all we've seen Dak Prescott do is support a pass-heavy offense and put up fantasy numbers. I saw PFF just tweeted out this morning, but since the start of 2016, Dak Prescott has more 400-yard games than any other quarterback in the league. So,
Nice.
he's just surrounded with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Blake Jarwin, and Ezekiel Elliott was pacing for his best year as a pass catcher last year.
Yep.
So this is a team that wants to throw the ball, and Dak Prescott is going to put up points. And this is a team that also plays from behind a lot. So Dak Prescott, he's, I've had him on my team before, and there's a lot of times where you go into halftime and Dak Prescott's got, 4 points, and you're like, oh man, it's going to be one of those weeks, huh? And then Dak Prescott comes in the second half and racks up another 25. They're a team that is playing from behind, and it kind of forces them in these positions to throw. But he was the QB1 when he went down last year. He was a QB2 the year before. 3 straight years where he's been QB5 or better. So the fact that he's kind of getting slept on right now, I don't get it. I think that he's my QB2 personally. Overall on the Football Guys site, he's the QB5 behind just Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson. But like we said with the wide receivers earlier, I feel like you can shuffle those 5 guys around in any which order, and they're all, they all have QB1 potential. So
and I think their defense is abysmal. Their defense is laughable. It's abysmal, and they really didn't do much to fix it. So it is always going to be playing from behind in Dallas. So that's exciting for us in fantasy for their offense.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you.
So if this is going to be a proficient pass offense, it's going to throw the ball a lot. Who do you think comes out as the team's wide receiver 1? Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb?
Oh, this one's so hard because I can make an argument for CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. It would just literally flip a coin. I'm not sure, but I know they're both going to be great. Now, maybe Amari Cooper, maybe even Michael Gallup will have a much better year simply because of the chemistry and, they know each other. That's a possibility too. I think all of them are going to do really well. But if I really had to make that choice, like you're asking me to do right now, give me CeeDee Lamb. I would rather have CeeDee Lamb. I want to cash in on that second-year breakout that I think he's just about to do. Amari Cooper, I don't know if I truly, really believe, and that's what it's going to boil down to, is what do you feel the best on your team? What do you feel is going to make you the happiest as a fantasy manager? Is it going to say, oh no, here's CeeDee Lamb scoring all these points for somebody else and I'm stuck with Amari Cooper? Or is it like, okay, well, I took CeeDee Lamb because I believe in him, even though Amari Cooper scored more points the other day? What do you believe in the most? Because that's what it's going to boil down to between these two players. So for me, I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb.
And I'd go with Amari Cooper, but by a very slim margin.
Slim, it's tiny hair.
And when I'm looking at it right now on the Football Guys website, we've got our rankings published up there. Amari Cooper is the wide receiver 13. CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver 14. So, I mean, everybody has them neck and neck at this point. And I think that if you want to chase the upside, and I think that's what people get excited about, is seeing that second-year breakout that we could, hope for CeeDee Lamb. Sure, I guess you could make the argument that he's got the higher ceiling, but we've already seen Amari Cooper consistently perform, whether it was on the on the Raiders or whether it's on the Cowboys. He's been a stud since he came into the league. And Ryan Weiss actually just wrote an article that you should check out that talks about how he's a little bit safer than people realize. He's not this volatile wide receiver that everyone makes him out to be. He's not a Tyler Lockett. He's a much more consistent receiver than you'd imagine. So I'm big on Amari Cooper this year, and he'd be my guy. Now let's pivot to the division rivals, the Eagles. Heading into 2021, They don't have Carson Wentz, and Jalen Hurts is assumed to be the week 1 starter. He showed some flashes as a rookie last year. So where are you comfortable drafting Jalen Hurts heading into this season?
I'm avoiding Jalen Hurts because I think he's going way, way, way too high. So it's one of those situations. I'm a late round quarterback kind of girl. I don't like to take them super early unless the league scoring requires me to do so. So I wait. So I don't even have Jalen Hurts in my sights at all. I am curious to see how he's going to do. Good job for you if you snagged him and it pans out. For me, I'm not taking that risk with Jalen Hurts at all. I'm not doing it. And we only had 4 games of him last year. Yeah. That's not enough. And I know there's been a lot of changes. We're talking about changes and stuff going on in Dallas. There's a lot of changes going on in Philadelphia with that team as well, including a whole new quarterback situation, a whole new head coach. I don't know. I don't like how high he is going in drafts and how high I've seen him go in mocks and in real drafts. I don't want any part of Jalen Hurts. Not that I'm saying he's going to be bad. I just think he's too expensive for my taste.
I'm with you on this as well. We're agreeing a lot today, Lauren.
Why are we agreeing so much today?
I don't know. It's not normal, but
we should fight more.
A couple of months ago, I was all in on Jalen Hurts because you could.
I know. I was here
so late in the draft, and I'm with you now. He's just getting pushed up, and right now Jalen Hurts is getting drafted ahead of Aaron Rodgers, ahead of Ryan Tannehill, ahead of Matthew Stafford, and there's a couple ways that you can look at it, because last year the same kind of thing happened with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was the guy that everyone was like, this guy's going to break out year 2. You can have him late in the draft. And then he's got to a point where I said, you know what? That's a little too rich for my blood. I don't want Kyler Murray anymore. And then what did Kyler Murray do? Prior to his shoulder injury, he was the QB1. So if that's what you're expecting Jalen Hurts to do, then anywhere you draft him should be high enough. We know he's got the rushing upside, but I'm with you. It's tough to draft him over guys like Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill, who we've seen consistently playing great for years. I feel like I'd take some of those veterans ahead of Jalen Hurts. But if you're looking for an ultra fragile team with super high upside, go out and get Jalen Hurts, because we know that he's got the upside with his, 52-point game or something last year. So we know he's got that ability. Now let's stick with the Eagles, and I want to talk about Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was a darling heading into the 2020 season. Everyone was expecting this huge breakout. He was getting drafted in the first round, and he just, face planted. And it was some injuries. It was terrible offensive line play. It was Carson Wentz. There's so many things that you can argue. But now I love the term post-hype sleeper. He's almost a sleeper now because he got hyped up so much last year. Do you think Miles Sanders kind of fits that bill heading into 2021 now?
If I believe that he could be successful in the NFL and actually have a really good season, then yes, I think he would fit the bill. But I don't believe in Miles Sanders. And I don't think it has anything to do with Miles Sanders. I just think it has to be the situation that he is in every single year. And I know you said that everyone was all excited about him. I wasn't. Every year I've written an article about how do not get your hopes up about Miles Sanders. I've done it twice now. And everyone's like, oh, how dare you? You hater, blah, blah, blah. And then look what happened in the season. No, stay away. But in this instance, I may break my brand, and I might try it out, but I don't know, because Jalen Hurts likes to run as well. Right. So that is a very difficult decision for me. But if he's in the right place and my roster needs him, or let's say I know somebody else's roster needs him, I might take him and just see what happens.
So you did call out that Jalen Hurts likes to run the ball, which obviously we know that. We've discussed that a little bit. But Miles Sanders actually had his best games when Jalen Hurts was playing. So I believe, I'm trying to find I had this somewhere.
I've seen it too. I can't remember the numbers, but I've seen it too.
Yeah. So over the 3 weeks that they played together, which were weeks 14, 15, and 16, Miles Sanders was the RB7 over that stretch. So, he did put up some pretty good stuff during those games. But right now, I think just seeing the deviation and how he's being ranked, looking at Footballguys, some people have him as high as RB15, other people have him as low as RB27. So I mean,
wow,
people are kind of all over the place with where to draft him. And I think that if he's getting to that point where, right now our consensus ranking has him below Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery and J.K. Dobbins. And I feel like if he's getting to the point where he's dropping into the 5th round, I'm going to be drafting Miles Sanders at that point.
Right.
Last year, getting drafted at the end of the 1st round was a little bit rich, but I feel like these it's kind of the opposite of the Jalen Hurts, where Jalen Hurts is getting pushed up so high that I don't want him anymore. Miles Sanders' value is getting so suppressed that it's kind of becoming attractive to me, and I might actually go out and get some Miles Sanders this year. So he's somebody I'll be keeping an eye on, but we know his potential. We've seen him flash, but it's always in these tiny little sample sizes. It's like three games, 4 games, 5 games where it's like, yes, Miles Sanders figured it out, and then he doesn't. So we'll see if he can put it together for a whole game stretch or a whole season stretch. But he's somebody,
a whole game stretch that is doable.
A whole game stretch. We've seen him do it for whole games. Let's see if he can do it for a whole season. Now let's move to the Giants because this year in the first round of the draft they got Kadarius Toney, and then they also signed Kenny Gallaudet. So I was stoked about Kenny Gallaudet. I thought that it was such a good match, and then Kadarius Toney came in, and now I feel like they might hurt each other's value a little bit. Do you agree with that? Do you think that they can hurt each other's value?
I think they could. Will they? This is boiling right down to how I feel about rookie wide receivers. I think they are rare when they can explode into the fantasy space. It doesn't happen with every single one of them, and a lot of people are hyping Kadarius Toney. I don't buy it. I will take the veteran in this case, and I will stick with Kenny Gallaudet. And mostly it's because of the skill set of Daniel Jones and what Daniel Jones is very, very good at doing and what he is not very good at doing. So what he's very good at doing is finding tight windows deep downfield. That is Kenny Galladay's bread and butter. That is what makes him so talented and so fantasy productive, is exactly what Daniel Jones is the best at. And he ain't good at much else. Sorry, everyone who loves Daniel Jones, including maybe running, although he was really fast at that before he fell on his face. I'm just saying, I think the fit is so perfect that if I were going to take either Kadarius Toney or Kenny Gallaudet, give me Kenny Gallaudet. I know what I am drafting when I get it. And if I'm disappointed, oh, well, that's my bad. But if he does really well, it's one of those things where like it should have happened because it seems like such a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think that Kenny Gallaudet is still going to be good. I had him slotted him as a low end wide receiver 1 when he signed with the Giants. Since then, I've dropped him. He's still a wide receiver 2 for me, but I think that Toney caps his upside just a little bit. But let's talk about Evan Ingram over there as well, because Evan Ingram is somebody who you can almost get for free in your draft right now. And because of that, I have been getting a ton of Evan Ingram in the 12th, 13th, 14th round. And I think a lot of this has to do with him in a primetime game against a division rival, dropping a pass. And you know how it is on those Monday night games. They've got like 40 cameras on him. So they showed him in super slow motion.
Replays over and over.
And we saw it on SportsCenter the next day. And it was just, I think because of that, his drops have been overhyped a little bit. But what are you thinking about Evan Ingram? Is he still a tight end 1 for you in fantasy?
No. Low end tight end 1 is potential, I think. However, I just don't think that there's that many passes to go around for him to be super productive if I think Kenny Gallaudet is going to be super productive. Although they do represent different roles on the field. One's a wide receiver, one's a tight end. I understand this. But I don't love how the Giants operate enough to really get super excited about Evan Ingram. But just like you said, he's going so late if going undrafted. Yeah, I will take a shot on that because I guarantee you they're going to be playing teams that are weak against the tight end. And in that situation, I want to plug him in. Why not? Especially if I'm streaming the position. So am I targeting him in drafts? Not really. Am I completely avoiding him? Absolutely not. But if I can get it at the right price point, if you will. I don't like to use that when it comes to people, but at the right place where he feels comfortable to me in the draft, maybe. Yeah. But I'm not super excited about it because of Daniel Jones.
So, I mean, when I look at it, it's kind of a crapshoot when you're looking at tight ends in general, but he is going to see the volume. Last year, when you're looking at targets per game, it was Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle in a tier of their own, obviously. And then Logan Thomas, who I don't think Logan Thomas is going to have that same role this year with a new quarterback. And then it was Evan Ingram with 6.8 targets per game. On his career, he's averaging 7.1 targets per game. 7.1 targets, it would have been the 4th most last year. I mean, I think that he's still going to be a heavily utilized part of this offense. So, like I said, it's at the point now where you can draft him for so cheap that I feel like it's no risk, high reward. So Evan Ingram's somebody that I'm going after this year. But let's wrap up the NFC East. We have one more team to talk about. The Washington football team still a team with no name. Still trying to figure this out. But they did do a lot of other stuff this offseason besides addressing their name, and they went out and they brought in Curtis Samuel and they drafted Diami Brown. And because of that, it has really left a lot of question marks surrounding Terry McLaurin. So I'm wondering, where are you ranking Terry McLaurin this year?
Oh, take those question marks and just throw them away. There should be no question marks about Terry McLaurin. He is a wide receiver one, capable producer, and I don't have any question marks about it. He can get it done no matter who is throwing the football. Did you see how many quarterbacks they had? Alex Smith, Kyle Allen. Was it Kyle Allen or Brandon Allen? I don't even, there's so many Allens. I don't remember
Kyle
who it was.
Allen.
Dwayne Haskins, whoever, didn't matter. He's just like, oh, look at me, I'm scoring touchdowns. He can make it happen. And I love him for that. Now, do I think he's going to be finishing within the top 10? That may be unlikely, but if he did, it wouldn't surprise me. I know I'm hedging a little bit there, but I think he is solidly in a low-end wide receiver one category, high-end wide receiver two, with wide receiver one weeks in his potential for fantasy with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Now, this is another guy who is just all over the place on our rankings. Consensus has him as wide receiver 11, but Matt Waldman has him as high as wide receiver 7. Chad Parsons has him as low as wide receiver 21. So this guy is all over the place. All over the place. And I
Chad
get
we're
it.
going to have a conversation.
I am kind of on Chad's side here a little bit.
You be
I hate
quiet.
to say it. And my reason for this
Terry McLaurin, I love you. Don't listen to these people.
So over the last 2 years, Terry McLaurin has ranked exactly second in consecutive seasons in opportunity share. He's also led the league in routes run. I mean, this guy, he has just been served such a just hefty plate of opportunity every single year, and he's done well with it, and I'm happy to see him do well with it. But I think that Curtis Samuel is going to change that a little bit. Curtis Samuel has commanded over 200 targets over the last 2 years in Carolina, taking targets away from DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, whoever it may be. Diami Brown is a very, very talented rookie who I think is going to come back and make a splash there. So I think that we're going to see a big drop in opportunity for Terry McLaurin. And that's been the thing that's really kind of boosted his value a little bit. He hasn't been that efficient. It's just been a lot of, targets going his way and a lot of routes run that have really helped him.
I don't like your logic.
Because
it's logical. I don't like it.
And that's why this has been such a hot topic, because it seems like nobody has nobody has a lukewarm take. They either think that he's going to be top 5 or they think that he's going to be, outside of the wide receiver 2 conversation, and nobody really seems to be in the middle. And I'm somebody who thinks that he is going to struggle this year. I got really excited when they brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick, but then with the other additions to the pass catching room, it just kind of pumped the brakes for me a little bit. I also think Antonio Gibson is going to see a very sizable, opportunity in the passing game this year. So it wouldn't see me if Terry McLaurin, even though he's heading into this year where we could see wide receivers break out all the time, it wouldn't surprise me to see him see a career low in targets in 2021.
I need to have a meeting with myself, because I'm one of those people who can definitely see myself having Washington football team everywhere. I think we talked about this already. I could have Ryan Fitzpatrick as my quarterback, Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver 1, Logan Thomas as my tight end, Antonio Gibson as my running back. And then, you know what? I'll just go ahead and have the Washington football team, defense, special teams, and just round it all out. And then not even realize what I'm doing, because they're all on the same team. But I know, right?
Curtis Samuel is a wide receiver too.
Doing that. I can't do that. I am not high on Curtis Samuel like everybody else is. But yeah, I could see that's how excited I am about all of these players and their fantasy potential. I need to have like a come to fantasy Jesus meeting with myself and be like, okay, you need to focus and understand what is happening. So maybe I'll dive deeper into that before the draft season begins for us redraft folk, and then maybe it'll give me some more clarity, because right now I'm just like, give me Washington. I love it.
I mean, it seems like they could be, I think the thing that can put a cap on their offensive production is that they have a very great stout defense that might, just keep them running the ball a lot, and they might not have to air it out as much, which is going to be kind of a weird spot for Fitzpatrick to be. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we already brought up Antonio Gibson, and let's close on that. Do you think Antonio Gibson is going to be an RB1 this year?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. I'm sold.
All right. Well,
breakout. Woo!
Any specific reason for it? Why are you sold that Antonio Gibson is going to be an RB1?
I think what kept him from really even glimpsing the ceiling was his injury, the turf toe. That really brought him down last year. He was also a rookie, right? I didn't just make that up.
No, he was a
So,
rookie last year.
okay, that's what I thought. For some reason, I just had a total brain moment where I was like, are you right though? Because that happens to me sometimes.
Yep.
I think this team is really starting to have its own identity, and it's starting to have its own juice and momentum as we get closer to this season. I don't know. It's very gut feeling. I don't have any numbers in front of you to say that I can prove that, but he almost did it last year as a rookie, and I think he definitely is going to take that major step forward to. And when we say RB1, we mean ranked between the 1st and the 12th RBs. So low end RB1, I definitely think that he can do. Now, would it surprise me if he fell? Of course, but I think he is capable of finishing as an RB1. Maybe not top 10, maybe 11 or 12, but I'm excited for him this year.
And this is another guy. You're gonna have a talk with Chad Parsons here. He's got him lower than anybody else on the Football Guys staff at RB18. But then we also see him ranked as high as RB6 from Anthony Amico. So this is another guy who has a very wide range of outcomes, and I love it. And I think that the big thing for him, we know this kid can run, which he got drafted as a wide receiver and then just looked like a veteran running back last year. And the thing was, J.D. McKissick was getting all the passing down work. So I would love if Antonio Gibson could see. Give me half the targets J.D. McKissick saw last year. What did J.D. McKissick see? Like 106 targets or something like that?
It was something pretty crazy.
It was over 100, I know for sure. If half of those go Antonio Gibson's way, Antonio Gibson could have a Christian McCaffrey like ceiling with his usage there. So I am all in on Antonio Gibson. And weirdly enough, we're doing the Scott Fish Bowl right now. I just got Antonio Gibson. He dropped to me in the 5th round as the
I'm still on my 2nd round of this draft, and it's driving me nuts.
I'm sorry.
I just want to pick my team.
But I am so sold on Antonio Gibson this year. What we saw last year was just phenomenal talent and very little usage in the pass game. So if he can, focus on what he's already doing well as an NFL running back and then add in that layer as a pass catcher, sky's the limit for this kid. And I can't wait to see what he does in 2021.
I'm really going to have to make decisions on who I take from the Washington football team. This is serious.
And not all of them?
Not all of them.
Well, if you're watching this show, you're probably a pretty high stakes football player. And I want to shout out that we are offering right now a chance to win $500,000 by playing in the Football Guys Players Championship. Entry is $350, or you can build 3 teams for $1,000, and you'll get a chance to play in a league with a life-changing prize. On top of that $500,000 prize that I called out, they're giving out a total of $3.7 million in the Football Guys Players Championship this year. So find the league on FFPC and draft your team as soon as possible. Now, Lauren, we always wrap the show up with the Football Guys Spotlight, and usually what we like to do is shine a light on some up-and-comers in the industry, some people who aren't getting a lot of attention. And today, I feel like we just need to pour on the attention to the man that is getting it all this week, that just deserves all the love. Scott Fish. We've mentioned it a couple times in this show already. The Scott Fish Bowl 11 drafts started yesterday. And if you are on Twitter and you follow anybody that is a content creator in the fantasy football community, I'm sure you're wondering, what the heck is this hashtag SFB11? It is Scott Fish Bowl 11. It's an awesome opportunity. We've got 1,900 people in it this year, and the work that has to go into building this league, sending out the invites, making sure people aren't timing out. I mean,
he's a superhuman.
He is. He really, really is. And I commission a 12-team league with my friends, and it is one of the hardest things that I do in this industry. I can't imagine having 1,900, strangers that you're trying to commission a league for, and he just does it so well. You and I both had the privilege of being on the Scott Fish Bowl Podathon last night, which was an absolute blast. And I just want to, give a little bit of Scott, or a little bit of love Scott's way, because I'm sure he's feeling it this week, but what he's going through this week, just he needs more and more. So follow him on Twitter if you're not already. It's at ScottFish24. He does an amazing job just giving back to the community with this charity league. So definitely check that out. Lauren,
yeah,
I'm sure
one of the things I wanted
to add.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to mention is that all of this Scott Fish does for charity. It is all for charity. And if you want to donate, you can actually donate just to the charity of your choice. It doesn't necessarily have to be with Fantasy Cares, which is his charity. It's an awesome thing even to be a part of, even if you're not in the tournament this year. Look into it. It's awesome. It is such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to do every single year.
Yeah, Couldn't agree more. So thank you for everything you do, Scott. And thank you for tuning into Football Guys 2-Point Stance. Be sure to subscribe to the Football Guys YouTube page for a new episode every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/footballguystv. You can find all the rest of the Football Guys shows there. Next week, we are going to switch to the AFC South and NFC South as we hit part 3 of our division breakdown. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.